Yeah.
And I think that brings us into like our stat categories too.
Strength, yeah, I think is an obvious one.
Stamina.
I think durability might be better than
Well, stamina is
stamina. Yeah,
different
that's
than durability because I would argue that Colossus has a lot of durability, but he may not have a lot of stamina.
Well, I would classify like durability into the third category I was thinking, which would be powers.
Well, I
And
think
that's just like a general rating of the overall powers in general, you know, what exactly can he do, what, you know, that kind of stuff.
so. I was thinking, okay, you got strength. I like agility as one. I think
ability.
I think stamina should be one.
Well, so I was gonna say instead of doing something like intelligence, I think we should do something like versatility, like the amount of things they can
Right.
do with the tools that they have. Like their ability to strategize will be an important thing with like people like Nightwing or Rocket Raccoon.
Their ability to adapt to just not just who they're fighting, but their surroundings.
I'm
Including
gonna use
powers.
adaptability because I think that describes pretty accurately. That's gonna play a big factor into the random arenas thing. I got strength, agility, stamina, adaptability. I mean, I guess we could do powers and just put durability in powers, but I feel like maybe we should do powers and equipment as well because I think that those should maybe be separate because like somebody like
We'll
Nightwing doesn't
have
really have any powers, so his
Could sum it
right.
up with ability, maybe.
well, I think
Equipment
you should be
fall under
separate.
that, so
That's
like
what I'm saying.
ability.
I think I don't want to
Oh,
combine
okay.
them. I think there should be two categories. I think there should
Oh,
be.
okay.
I almost think there should be three. I think there should be a durability, a powers, and an equipment.
I could see us being fine with just powers and equipment. Because I feel like durability can still fall under like, you know, yeah, someone like Nightwing who doesn't have powers, you know, he's not as durable, but his equipment provides, you know, it could also provide durability with armor or whatever, like Blue Beetle, you know. Blue Beetle could take a punch from Colossus probably and it hurt, but he'd survive, whereas Nightwing would probably have, you know,
So
some
just depending
broken
on the
bones
hero,
and
the durability is just going to get pushed into powers or equipment depending on
right.
the character.
Yeah.
What should these scores be? Like 1 through 5, 1 through 10, you know, F through S. I mean, how do you guys want to do this?
I think personally I would do 1 through 5. On the sole basis that, you know, if we go 1 through 10, it almost gets a little bit too specific for the argument we're having, where it's like, well, you know, I don't know. I feel like 1 through 10 is too specific, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Well, I mean,
No,
if we're gonna do 1 through 5, I think we should do the D through S just because it's a little more classy, and I like giving people letters for their abilities.
It's fine with me.
Are we saying D being the lowest person within this list, or D is like pedestrian level?
I would say D is, I think it's easier if we make D like they're not significantly different than an ordinary human, you know, like a normative
Or at
human, I
least
think
the
is a better way to
lowest
put
you
it.
could be and still be considered a hero.
Yeah,
I would,
basically.
yeah, consider it like if you were a fit or active or smart or kind of like human, like above average human kind of thing.
Right.
You know,
So
like,
like in terms of
you know,
powers, right? Like Green Arrow would be like a D because he doesn't technically have any powers.
Right.
Right? Is
right.
The
basically
same with
what we're
Nightwing.
saying.
Yeah, like they're
Same
Well,
with
yeah,
Nightwing.
but their
yeah.
equipment is going to get way more than somebody like Beast Boy,
I
who's
mean,
probably
you
going to
could
have a lot of
still,
powers, but not going to have shit for equipment.
I
we
think
could,
Beast Boy's only equipment is I don't know what happens to his clothes when he transforms. That's it.
he's got a special uniform. My thing is, like, you could still argue some of them higher than D's, especially with, like, Green Arrow or Nightwing with their martial arts prowess and
But I
stuff
would
like
argue
that.
that's goes more into their adaptability than their powers.
There.
Yeah. Well, no, that's what I'm saying though. Is
Like
that
we powers
making
should be
D the least you have to.
specifically like, you know, or like you got
Specifically,
yeah.
like, superpowers
Now
kind
on
of
the
thing.
flip side of that, are we considering S the strongest you can be among this list, or are we considering S like S strength is Superman strength? Like nobody on this list will ever reach an S. If we want to connect the same grading system with the other heroes down the line, then it's not gonna line up the same. Like you
He
can't say
becomes the S
Right.
of this list,
Exactly.
and S becomes the top of the other list, kind of thing.
yeah, it's not gonna be
So-
like equivalence.
Then I have a proposal, which is that, and this is something we can decide later, but for each of those statistics, I think the first thing we need to do is determine which hero has the S in that statistic.
Obviously there's going to be varying degrees even within the S, but I would argue, you know, two S's fighting each other, they've got equivalent strengths to a degree to where they could probably hurt each other.
It's better that we choose a standard and like an S standard, and then say like nobody on this list will necessarily reach the S standard.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of
I kind of like that better.
I like the only reason I like that is because if we do decide to do the God tournament later on, then we can still use the same standard and be like, okay, well these people actually are S's in certain areas.
That's fair. So it's kind of being capped at like an A for pretty much everything.
Yeah, probably
For everyone.
Yeah, I mean,
So like
A is probably the highest any of these people would go. You might be able to argue an S for certain, like,
well,
for
that's
maybe
like
equipment and adaptability.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of just like,
yeah,
how how useful it is and stuff, and how, I mean, I would argue a moon, well, like a Green Arrow, even like it, you know, has a lot more adaptability than even some of the characters that are gonna be in the God fights. You know, his adaptability is insanely high. So I would argue there's potentially some messes in here.
If you liked this highlight, be sure to tune in to the full episodes every Monday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time.